Hey y'all, so let's have a little chit chat. Let's say you're seriously thinking about getting locks. Um, and you don't know where to start. My advice to you, the first thing you need to do is get on that computer or your phone, internet, whatever, and start just Googling and looking up locks. Go to Pinterest, create a Pinterest account if you don't have one. Look up locks and it'll show all kinds of different locks. You can just type in the search traditional locks, sister locks, how to start the locks. There's so much you need to think about before you take this journey. You got to think about what kind of locks you want, the size you want, how you want to start them, two-strand twists, braids, interlocking. What type do you want? Traditional? Do you want sister locks? Do you want micro locks? There's a lot of options. Then you have to think about how you want to maintain them. You have to think about your lifestyle. Are you an active person? Do you work out a lot? Do you like to swim? So that's when you want to think about interlocking, because then your reties will last a little longer. You won't have to go as often versus if you palm roll or twist, your locks are going to come, that retwist is going to come down the minute water hits it, the minute you wash it, and you have to be okay with that. If you're not okay with that, and if you really are just hooked on having this really manicured, perfect look, if you're obsessed or hooked on having your parts, or as far as sister locks goes, a grid perfect and seeing scalp, and you can lift your hair, oh, look at my parts, they're perfect, and you see scalp. If you like that, if you're into that, sister locks might be the route for you, or micro locks, because micro locks, they also, they don't necessarily deal with the grid, but the parts are neat and all that good stuff. So yeah, that's where I would tell anyone to start. Figure out what you want first. These are things you literally have to think about. Seriously. You have to think about the size of your locks. What size do you want them to be? Do you want traditional? Do you want bigger? There's a lot to choose from. Do you want the teeny tiny? You can still get teeny tiny locks, and they don't have to be sister locks, and you don't have to pay that sister locks money. Really all you're paying for is the grid, if you decide to get sister locks. And you can save yourself money. You really can. You can get micro locks, start them by two-strand twister braids, and no one would be the wiser once they start to mature, and they can still look like sister locks. Who's gonna know? Who's going to know unless someone really gets all up in your head and looks at your grid? And even then, I'm like, unless you have a keen, expert eye, who's going to know? Whether if you have sister locks or micro locks, and they were done by somebody who just happens to know how to part really well and evenly. But locks, after you decide all those things and you make those decisions and you really look at all the pictures, y'all, that you can possibly look at, and look at other people and try to figure out what look you want for yourself. What would you like? And try to think ahead, because when you first start your lock journey, yes, they're skinny. You kind of look like a plucked chicken a little bit. That's how some people describe it. That's how I described myself when I first got my locks, and I did. I look like a plucked chicken. Some people call it the ugly stage. I don't think it's an ugly stage, because I don't think locks are ugly. But it's the beginning stages of your locks. And it's hard to picture or to look forward, but you kind of have to. And that's why pictures on the internet are so important, because you can see the different stages of your locks and how they'll start to swell and bud, and they're starting the locking process. So just know that they're not going to stay skinny forever. They're going to start doing what they do and going through all these changes and stuff. So keep that in mind, that they're not going to stay that teeny tiny size forever unless you go super skinny. They will swell up and get bigger. So yeah, those are things to think about. And then you just kind of go from there. If you go the Sister Locs route, honey, please tread lightly, tread carefully, really do a deep dive and think about whether or not that's something you want to do. I would also hop on YouTube and watch videos of different people's experiences, because that'll help you form your opinion too. Not everything is going to apply to you. You're not going to experience all those different things, but I think there's value in listening and taking into account other people's experiences and what to look out for. I speak a lot about the scammers because the scammers are out there and I've been scammed. I've run across the bad locticians. Weirdos, crazies, you name it. I've pretty much experienced it all within my first year of having Sister Locs. My first year and a half. Like, I experienced some stuff. And what I'm going to tell you are the pitfalls to avoid. And even with me telling you this, there's still no guarantee that you're going to be able to avoid everything, because it's just kind of hard to avoid scammers. But there's red flags that you can look out for too. But Sister Locs as a style, yes, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. But the key, there's some things. There's some variables that have to fall in place in order for you to have a positive Sister Locs experience. First and foremost, finding the right loctician. If you can find the right loctician, someone who's honest, ethical, they're not trying to scam you, they're not forcing unnecessary reties on you, they're not rushing through your reties, they're not doing your reties too tightly. If you can find someone who check off all those boxes, then honey, you're off to a good start. And then you have to think about Sister Locs in the long term. The longer your hair grows, the heavier it gets. The reties, the tool, and watching out for thinning. Not everybody experiences thinning. Not everybody experiences balding, but it is something that you need to look out for because of the constant manipulation, because of the retightenings, because of the tool used, and whether or not the person that's doing your hair is doing your hair correctly. Even if you're a DIYer, you still have to be careful with that, because that's a lot of manipulation, especially if you're sticking to this strict, rigid retightening schedule. You're going to experience, it's going to affect your hair. You might start seeing thinning. You might start seeing or experiencing hair loss. So that's another thing to consider. Again, I know not everyone experienced this, but people in the Sister Locs world are starting to speak out on this more. And I think that's a good thing, because this is something that needs to be talked about more, because it is a thing. Thinning and hair loss after a certain amount of years, it's a thing. And I know a lot of people personally who have cut off their locks, who stopped their lock journey because of thinning and balding at the crown or those sensitive areas in their hair due to retightenings, manipulation, hairstyles, too tight hairstyles. All those factor in. And yeah, that's why people are looking more at knotted locks that Melissa Blake started. Look her up on YouTube and look up her method. why she created it, and why it's an alternative to retightenings when you have micro locks or sister locks. Yeah, these are things I wish I had known before I jumped into the sister locks world. I had no clue, and I don't think really anybody knows what they're getting into with sister locks unless you personally know somebody who has it and who's been in that world. I didn't personally know anybody who had sister locks at the time when I got them. So I went into this blindly. I was excited. I was naive, extremely naive, y'all. And then having the first loctician that I had didn't help either, because she was a scammer. She was a total scammer. And that was unfortunate. I hate that was my experience. And that soured me so much going forward. And I think maybe if I had a different loctician, if I had somebody who actually cared about me and my hair, who wasn't using me as their bank account, who literally told me to my face that she needed me to come in because she needed to pay for her daughter's birthday party. Like, what? It wasn't even time for me to have a retie. She was trying to force a retie on me because she wanted my money. So yeah, I think had I not had her or chosen her, because I did choose her as a consultant, and that's a whole other story. I probably would have kept my sister locks. No, I wouldn't have, because I still would have combined them. Because, like I said, when I hit that 6-month mark, I knew I didn't like the small locks. I didn't like it. So I was already thinking about combining them. So, but again, that first experience, that the first impression, I probably would have held on to the sister locks a little longer. But seeing how I went through so much crap with her, and then a couple other people after her, I was like, yeah, I'm done. I'm getting out this sister locks world. We're just gonna have some regular locks or semi-micro locks, and we're gonna call it a day. We're gonna combine these babies, and we're gonna pivot to a whole different journey, which is basically what I did. So yeah, I just wanted to, if you're thinking about locks, if you're thinking about locking your hair, do your research. I would never discourage anyone from locks. I will only discourage you if you're not patient, and if you like to change up your hair a lot. Because once you lock your hair, that in itself is a journey. And if you're the type who likes to, I want to flat iron it now. I want to curl it up. I want to do this. Not saying that you can't do those things with locks, and I would not encourage you to flat iron your locked hair. But if you're the type who likes to change up your hair a lot and do all kind of different things, don't lock it. Stay a loose natural. But I was just in here thinking, and I was like, what would you tell someone? What would be your first or most important advice that you can give someone that's considering locks? Number one will always be do your research. Get on the internet, look up stuff, and look at pictures of locks, different sizes, different ways of starting them, different lengths, different colors. Factor all that in before you make your decision. And then from there, start looking for someone to do it. Or if you want to do it yourself, hey, go for it. But do your research. That's my advice. Bye.